Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the I Am 1-2 podcast with your host, Christopher Cohn. With me, as always, in the studio is the man behind the levers, the man behind the diodes, the man behind all the transistors, the man that makes all the magic happen, Dan the Man, in the studio. Say hello to the people out there, Dan.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're here with us today. Boy, do we have a special guest for you today.
Boy, he said a mouthful. I am sitting next to one of my heroes, and he's going to hear a lot about that today. I hopefully make him blush for everything he's done for me in my recovery. But this is a great honor, and I hope you are buckled up because this is going to be an awesome podcast. Our good friend Scott from Nashville, Tennessee is in the studio with us. Welcome, Scott. Really glad you're here.
Thank you, Christopher. Yeah, I can't wait to hear me.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. And Dan and Christopher, thank you all so much for allowing me to come. And as you know, I like to open anything I do with a few moments to invite God to the meeting. And just in case somebody who's listening doesn't have a God, or you got here like I did, terrified that there might be one. If that's your situation, borrow mine. I recommend him very highly. He's got a great sense of humor. And let's just take a moment. And you can address him, by the way, as the God of Scott's limited understanding. That'll get you up on the right foot, because that's the truth. And let's just take a moment each our own way and invite God to join us here, and I'll just say amen. Amen, and wow.
Amen.
Amen. That's something that Scott taught me a long time ago. He doesn't know he taught me so much. To take a moment before I speak at a meeting and really invite God in the room. And I like what you say after that. I'm off the hook now.
That's it.
Because I ask higher power to take control.
That heat's gone.
And yet, there's still that old timer that wants to stick their nose in after and say, I take issue with it. Not me. You got to talk to God. I don't know what came out of my mouth. So I want to explain to the people out there, just to, again, to laud on you a little bit. We in our program have a tradition of calling the people that are our teachers and our sponsors, they're angels with clay feet. And we got to be careful we don't put them on pedestals, because they are just drunks and drug addicts that can fall just like any of us can. But I also encourage all my people, and it was important in my sobriety, to have heroes. And heroes in recovery in my book are those lighthouses that are out there carrying a strong, attractive message and helping so many people, and you emulate them so much you want to be like them. Back in the 80s we used to say be like Mike when it was Michael Jordan. But now I've had Scott, I've had Dr. Burns Brady, I've had countless, Keith Lewis, Sandy Beach. I could just go on and on about all the people that made such a difference in my recovery. And I encourage all of you out there, pick your heroes. You can pick them in your home group, you can pick them in your town, or nationally on YouTube. And these people are lighthouses for you as a guiding light to help you get through the storm and weather some of the challenges that come up. So thank you first for that. And you've always been a great lighthouse for me.
Well, thank you. I didn't know that, but you're sure welcome. I'm riding the shoulders of the giants. I know all of those names you just said and was close with all of them.
I can feel it. I can feel it in your walk. So let me give you that history of how I came across your path. I had moved back to Louisville in 1997, and I got a sponsor, the Sarge, Steve. He's been on our podcast. If you guys want to look him up, the Sarge. And he was a drill sergeant in the Vietnam War era is what he was. And he started feeding me these speaker tapes just out of the blue. And, back in the old days, you had to sit down and record them. So he was putting a lot of work into these things. And I would listen to him and say, give me another one, give me another one. And eventually, your talk in Montana, for some reason, in the 90s, somewhere around that era, really touched me in terms of, it was a big book study. And you went through the whole thing. And the way you put it well in other talks. And you've got other talks that might be better in some ways. But for some reason, that one just codified for me the approach that I wanted to use with my guys and for myself. And so here I was at 18 years recovery thinking I got this, and I realized I knew little. And I realized I knew nothing, actually. And you took me to a level where I smelled more and better, and I started following you guys and trying to walk your walk, and I've helped more people since then. It was the reason why I got into social work after that. I went back and finished my degree and got my master's degree because of that. And everything changed, and this is what I this is my barometer for a true spiritual awakening, is it makes you want to be of more service to others. And that is what you did for me. I'm sincerely, I can't even put it into words. You were a big part of, and at that time, Burns Brady came into my life. So I had him in person to walk me through the book, and he knew Bill Wilson better than anybody I've ever met in my life. And then I had you, and you guys, everybody I've helped, it's you two guys are my top teachers. So thank you.
What an honor. What an honor. Thanks for the tears.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And I know you get all this praise and all these stuff everywhere you go, but seriously, I hope you can take that in.
It
changed my whole life, brother.
It feeds something in me that really needs to be starved, if you want the truth. my clay feet run a lot further up than feet. I'll just tell you that much.
Mine too. So we like to go through your story and get a little background on things that people might not know about your background. Okay. So, tell me where you grew up and tell me about your family, brothers and sisters a little bit.
Well, I asked Don Pritz one time not too long before he died. I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I know some grown-ups and I don't want what they have. So the grow-up thing offends me. I got bigger in a number of places. I think my dad was trying to outrun this thing. Mm. And I was the new kid on the block every 6 months to 2 years. By the time I got out of high school, I'd been to school in 6 different states. My earliest memories are sitting in a cherry tree in Elmira, New York, flying it. Mm. I had always wanted to fly. Mm. And I graduated from we lived in Delray Beach, Florida for 3 years. And it was in those days, it was just a small country town that happened to have an ocean on one side. And my mission was to spend as much time in the ocean as I did on the land. Hmm. And I became a big fan of, I never did scuba, but mask and snorkel and fins, and I was out there all the time. I knew a bunch of those fish by name, and they must have known my name by then.
So back, your dad really did get around from New York to Florida and here and there.
We lived in, my earliest memories are in York, Pennsylvania. We lived in Elmira, New York. We moved to Dallas. We moved back to Elmira. We moved to Delray Beach. We moved to Atlanta.
And did you have brothers and sisters in total?
I have a younger sister.
Okay. Mm-hmm. How much younger?
About almost 3 years.
Okay. Your mom was probably trying to understand and deal with all that. And like you said, your dad was maybe trying to outrun his disease a little bit.
He was. My dad was a great salesman and a fabulous storyteller. I consider myself a storyteller, and I think I came by it honestly. He was just a storyteller. And when he started telling a story, it was like Sandy Beach. I had Sandy in a restaurant one time, just the two of us. And I get around a guy like that, I got nothing to say. I got some questions, but I got nothing to say. And I got him talking, and about half hour into this thing, I interrupted. I said, Sandy, you're a great storyteller. He said, yeah, that's my gift. And he just went back to his story. And I thought, you're the only guy I know that's not impressed by Sandy Beach. You are the only one. And if you'll think about it, all the great teachers in history were storytellers. Christ, Buddha, Aristotle, Plato, they were storytellers.
Yeah.
We learn best anecdotally.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%. I always do that in my group to try and make either a picture out of it, because I think we can see pictures and maybe movie scenes that we can relate to easier than concepts, but also to tell a story. That is the best way to reach someone. Mm-hmm. So what was your first memory maybe where you were aware of your dad's drinking? Anything come to mind?
Nothing really comes to mind. He was a periodic. He would go for long periods of time. What I remember is you never knew what you were going to get. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Yeah. He was, when he was happy, he was the grandest guy in the world to be around. And I was an underachiever, and he tried to motivate me. This is awful, and I'm going to tell it to you anyway because I'm past it. He told me several hundred times that I wasn't worth the gunpowder take to blow me to hell. And what he was trying to do was to motivate me to go do things, and what he did was drive me away. Mm-hmm. And I got away from him as much as I could. I stayed away from him. And you never knew what you were going to get. You could be in the house sweating and say, gee, Dad, it's hot in here. Say, yeah, why don't you turn on the air? Or sitting there sweating, say, Dad, it's hot, come turn on the air. Do you know how much it costs? And you never know what you're going to get.
Right.
And so what I learned was to not feel. And I learned to not talk. And I became a compulsive liar. And if he asked you a question, if you had a brain, you gave him the answer you thought he would like the best, and then got away from him as fast as you could and made it as true as you could on the back end. And that was so ingrained in me. It's a survival skill in a home like that. It is literally a survival skill. Because the little kid, he was 6'4", this big booming voice, literally a survival skill. A good friend of mine at home says honesty is kind of like scotch. It's an acquired taste. And it's also something that's taken some getting used to. It's like being innocent. It takes a while to get used to being innocent, because I was guilty for a long time. And when I'm guilty, I'm always looking over my shoulder, and who's going to find a plan B and plan C, and what they find out. And all of a sudden, my head isn't a busy place. And initially, I think it's boredom, and it's not. It's serenity. I was told a long time ago, if you're boring, it's your fault. Go do something. Yeah. If you're bored, go do something.
Everything you're saying, though, is resonating with not only myself, but all the men I work with. This conflict and or absence of a supportive father in their life. And also having to read the signs. That's what I did with my dad being an alcoholic, is check out his mood, check his gait getting out of the car, see what he was bringing in the house that night, and then going to hide when you didn't think it was safe, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, if he traveled for a living, and if he was in town, I rarely came home from high school. I'd go home with a friend and stay as long as I could.
Did you all ever get a chance to reconcile at any point?
Yeah, some beautiful things happened. I finally graduated. I went to University of South, Swanee, Tennessee, and I graduated out of summer school after my class graduated. I was plenty smart to do the work. I was a little too busy. I flunked out twice, and that last summer school, I needed 3 C's to have enough quality points and hours to graduate in 3 freshman level courses, and I got them. And from there, I went into the United States Air Force as a second lieutenant. I'd gone through ROTC. And they sent me to Valdosta, Georgia, to Air Force pilot training, and I took to it like a duck. Oh, my heavenly days. And I had 30 hours of flying time at Swanee from a retired Air Force colonel who was as mean as a divorce lawyer. And I think what happened was he saw I was one of the gifted ones. He wouldn't let me coast. I'll quote him. The pattern altitude's 1,000 feet, fathead. It's 1,003. That's exactly right. It's supposed to be 1,000. Fix it. So I learned to fly it that way in 30 hours. And when I started flying in the Air Force, it was cake, and it all made sense to me. And I graduated second we started with about 75 guys started in my class. We graduated 50. We didn't kill any. We washed 25 out. And I graduated second in the class, and my friends all said I got screwed politically. I should have gotten first.
Wow, impressive.
And I had a gift. One of my classmates was actually commanded the air wing in the first Gulf War.
Oh, wow.
He made brigadier general, and we had a class reunion. And I said to him, I said, hey, man, there were times when I didn't think you were going to graduate. He said, there were times I didn't think I was going to graduate. I worked my butt off through this thing, and you coasted the whole way, didn't you? I said, yeah.
And he made brigadier general.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
But I was just...
That's impressive.
I was just one of the gifted ones. By the time I'd been in any kind of airplane for 4 or 5 hours, I could make it do anything. It became part of me. I was one of those guys. There were 2 in my class. There were 2 of us.
All right, so let's get these missing pieces in here, though,
Okay.
because we do like to talk about the first drink or drug we ever had.
Okay,
And
sure.
For a lot of people, it may not be that transformative experience. For me, it was. I was a light bulb alcoholic that first time I turned on. What was your experience?
I'd had a sip of my daddy's beer at his knee. But I was at Swanee going through fraternity rush, and I went into the bar with some of the fraternity boys. They ordered a beer. I ordered the same brand of beer they did. I didn't like the beer. I didn't like anything about the beer except I'm doing it with him. And by the time we got to the bottom of the second one, I was full blown.
Mhm.
It was magic. It did the magic for me.
Magic is a word that I use to describe my feeling. How did you experience that? What did it do for Scott? What did you like about it?
Taller, smarter, better looking, expert on many subjects. Expert on subjects I never heard of and can't spell. I can talk to the girls. Fantastic dancer. All of that. But the big one was, for the first time deep in my soul, something released and I could breathe.
Yeah.
And it became okay to be Scott. It never had been. By the time I was 6 or 8 years old, I discovered that I'm defective. There are things wrong with me that can't be worked on, certainly not fixed. And became an actor as a small boy, pretending to be the guy I think you want me to be. And you, whoever in front of me right now, I'm a different guy to everybody. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to be acting all the time. Taking the room's temperature, figuring out this act will work, this one won't. I heard Dr. Paul one time, the guy that wrote that thing about acceptance, and he said he was not impressed by schizophrenia. That's only 2 personalities. He said if he could get it down to 2, he'd still be out there. I got hundreds of personalities I haven't even used yet. Yeah. And by the time I got to the end and came to you people, I didn't know who stood behind the last mask. I knew 4 things about myself when I came out of the haze. I was 41 years old. 4 things. I like to drive airplanes, fish, shoot pool, and I'm a raging heterosexual. I haven't seen an unattractive woman since the summer I turned 12 years old. They all look good to me. That's not a lot of information for 41 years. And I like to share with the new people. It's okay not to know, as long as you're trying to find out. And part of how I find out is I hear myself say something I now disagree with. It's part of one of my old acts. And I say something, wow, I don't believe that anymore.
But what you described there very concisely is the disease of alcoholism, that people think it has to do with our drinking, and that's just the symptom. And I try to communicate this sometimes to my loved ones because they're like, oh, that happened a long time ago in your life. You're over that. You're helping so many people. You couldn't possibly still be suffering from this disease. And I have to tell them every day I get up with this disease of perception, right? The way I look at the world is not right. And if I let it go, it'll drive me to do damage. I'll do damage. I'll step on the toes of my fellows.
That's right. I got brain damage. And that's exactly
Say
right.
that 5 times fast.
Yeah. One of the early guys that I worked with said his disease got up 30 minutes before he did every morning. Did some jumping jacks, some push-ups, and perched on the headboard and waited. And he opened his eyes, roar, and it jumped on him. And he said he woke up with untreated alcoholism every morning. Need his medicine right now. There's a phrase I like. It says, on awakening. You know what it doesn't say? It doesn't say after a shower and shave, 2 ovaries and bacon, a half a pot of coffee, reading the front page, and a fight with her. It says, on awakening. I think that might be what it means.
My sponsor, Burns, practiced that every day. He said that when I wake up, I say I have a talk with myself. And my talk is, Burns, you're going to enter out in this world, and a lot of shit's not going to go your way today. So what's going to happen is you're going to go into control mode. And when you go into control mode, you're going to hurt a lot of people. And as you do that, you need to take the hand of your higher power right now before you walk out the door, because if you don't, you're going to cause a lot of things you're going to have to make amends for later. And so he would go through the first 3 steps before he got out of bed. That was the abridged version I gave you.
Yeah.
But, you know, this thing about taking my first breath, I actually try to describe that to people, not realizing I was holding my breath for all the first 18 years of my life. And I actually did a routine, since I was the actor in me, where I had my talk one night. I said it went from this, built up, to, and I actually did it, and I got that big smile we get when we're a little juiced. And the whole room, you could feel that wave of recognition go through the whole room. Why don't we talk more about that in society, about the reasons why people drink? Not just that they're drinking, they need to stop. They don't understand we have demons we're battling on a daily basis in our head.
Yeah, the transition that happened for me was I went from the fear that these guys would see the real me and not want me in their fraternity to, these turkeys are awfully fortunate. A cool guy like Scott is here.
Changing your perception.
Entire psychic change.
Yeah.
I heard it described one way that the guy goes in the bar talking about he can't afford to pay his bills and he's broke, but he starts buying drinks for everybody else once he gets drunk because now he's like had that change of perception about his problems.
Yeah.
It's uncanny how complex our illness is. And I was actually in a training with a top neuroscientist of the country who said, this is in 2003, he said, we have the most complex illness that exists. He said cancer is a walk-in park compared to this one. Because of the layers. There's layers of sickness. And the guys come to my group and they say to me, I don't think I'm in the wrong group. I don't think I have a problem. You know? Daily basis that occurs.
No, you don't. You have an answer. Let's quit working.
There you go.
You need a new answer.
There you go.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get the new answer, and if the new answer isn't better than the old answer, you can't lay the old answer down. You will go back to it.
So did that change mean that now Scott's the drinking guy in that fraternity? Did that change overnight on you?
I just got drunk every time I got a chance, and I got a lot of chances. And when I went into the Air Force, I had 20/17 vision in both eyes. You understand what that means? Better than perfect vision.
Naturally, just born with it.
I was born with it. Yeah, and that I understand that most, if not all, of the World War I aces had better than 20/20 vision. The advantages in a dogfight are speed, the ability to turn, the ability to climb, and who sees who first. If you could pick one, you'd take first look. 2017 is a lot. If I'd had some coaching and really focused, I would have been a tournament level pool player. If I got to the table, you should have a seat, because you're not coming back.
So if something's like a speck on the horizon, you would spot that before somebody else would.
I would see it before anybody else did.
Interesting.
But what happened was, because of my pool playing, I could afford to drink.
So you were a gambler too?
No. No, my dad's older brother was a gambler, professional gambler.
I see.
And he said, there are three things you got to do to make good money shooting pool. One is get down low over the stick so you can sight down it. The second one is make sure nothing changes in impact. Don't let your head or your butt come up. Don't change your grip. And the third most important thing is don't ever play anybody that can beat you. He said if you'll do those three things, you can make a lot of money shooting pool.
Did you follow that?
And I followed that. I certainly did. And that worked out well for me.
So you got the new tool. I'm better with the ladies. You got the alcohol in your life. I'll bet you were a character in your later college
I
years.
was, and I was just a little bit too busy to do the schoolwork.
Yeah.
And so I got out of college just by the skin of my teeth, and then I was just a shine. The lowest I ever finished in anything in flying was second.
It's interesting.
I was usually first.
Because you found your love. You found the
I
thing you were
had
meant
a
to do.
love for it. I had a gift for it, and I just absolutely loved it.
So another question I like to ask people before we get into your military career. At 18, before the drinking, did you have a dream or a goal for your life? If I had a magic wand and I could have waved it and given you any kind of life you wanted, did you have anything you wanted to do with yourself?
Yeah, I just didn't want to get caught.
That's it.
I was
Stay out of trouble.
I didn't have one. I was on defense all the time. I had no idea. I had no opinions because it wasn't safe to have an opinion in my home. My father had the opinions.
I see.
And you agreed with his, or you were an idiot. You had two choices.
So the true chameleon.
So yeah, and I'd been acting. By the time I get to you, I'd been acting so long. I don't know who stands behind the last mask.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard you say often in your talk, I'm afraid I've told you something different, and
That's
you guys
it.
are all going to get together and have a
I'm
meeting.
scared to death they're going to be at the same place at the same time. Yeah.
So like a boat without a rudder at that time. And then how quickly after the college debacle did you end up leaning towards the military and fall into that?
Well, I went to ROTC in college, and as soon as I graduated, I went straight to pilot training.
Oh, okay.
They
So
commissioned me.
that gave you a
and I was
direction.
gone in my head. There was a 2-month lag between when I could go, and I worked for a landscape company with a shovel. I got married my senior year, which is one of the reasons I graduated. That slowed my drinking down some.
Did you know when we were in ROTC that you wanted to lean towards flying?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you had
That's
that
why I
goal
was
out
there.
there. Okay.
That's why I was there.
Okay.
I signed a contract with him my junior year if I would graduate and could pass a pilot's physical, they would send me to pilot training as a second lieutenant. Now, they don't guarantee that you graduate, but they'll send you. And that was the deal I had. And then if you wash out, you still got 5 years up to whatever else they send you to do.
So, did you? Hold, give me 1 second. Sometimes the train has to catch up with the tracks here.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay, so. What do you think it was, just from being when you were young and you wanted to fly, or where do you think that comes from? I'm always interested in people's dreams, and almost like it's, I don't know. I mean, who knows? In another lifetime, another dimension, maybe you did that. But there's always something driving people that you always wonder, where does that come from?
I think I was born with it. It was like my need to punish fish. I have a rather serious case of smallmouth bass, and I'm not mad at them. I fish single hook, no barb. A lot of them jump and throw it. We got a term for that. We call it the early release program for first-time offenders. But I was a fisherman by the time I was 7 years old.
Huh.
And I think the flying thing was the same. I just always wanted to do it. I used to. My grandparents lived, my mother's side of grandparents lived in Antlers, Oklahoma. Antlers is not quite as cosmopolitan as it sounds. And we would spend summers there. And summer lasted several decades in Antlers, Oklahoma. There was nothing to do. And I can remember my grandfather was a doctor, and he had a hawk wing that had been preserved. And I would take that hawk wing and run off the porch flapping it when I was 8 years old.
That's cute.
I've never told that, but I always wanted to fly.
That's awesome.
I just always wanted to fly.
Was it being free of the earth? What is there an attraction I'm missing here?
It's the view, it's the freedom, it's the ability to do anything you want.
Mm.
An airplane in flight is the closest thing left on this planet to an absolute monarchy.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you're above all the noise and all those distractions and everything else.
Yeah, a lot of times we did that. And the one we flew for the last 6 months in training, the T-38, the one that Tom Cruise thought was a MiG in the first time. When we went anywhere in that, we always went above 40,000 feet because we're flying faster than the airliners.
Wow.
They're in our way.
Wow.
We usually ran at 0.9 Mach. The Mach is 760, so call it 700 miles an hour. The airliners are running more like 0.72, like in the high 400s or maybe 500.
I'm glad you brought that up. That is something I did want to ask you. I think you either have the genes for it or you don't, but I do like speed. I like thrust. I like torque.
You would like afterburners.
Well, I don't know if I'd like the twisty turnies because I've got other stuff.
Yeah.
But I wonder, what is that like to have that much power under your control when you hit?
My last couple of years in, I flew the C-141, it's a four-engine jet. She weighed 300,000 pounds, and those four jets at takeoff thrust put out 80,000 pounds of thrust. And I can remember taking a runway and turning and looking, and I got all that behind me. I got this whole crew. Everybody's doing what I say. And I've got 300,000 pounds in one hand and 80,000 pounds of thrust in the other. It's kind of hard not to develop a deity complex like that, you know, and I can make this thing do anything.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, compare that exponentially to an airline, commercial airline jet. If I'm being pushed back in my seat from that on takeoff, how much more is it to be in a fighter jet?
Bunch.
I can't even quantify it.
Maybe a bunch and a half, somewhere right along in there.
A shit ton.
Yeah. Well, you don't like the afterburners when you're sitting still because the engines will literally blow out. Mm-hmm. So you run up to what they call military power. It's everything short of burner. Release the brakes and run several hundred yards and then light the burners. You know when the burners light.
Right? Sledgehammer.
Yeah. And now I'm going to bust your bubble. Okay?
Yeah.
Forgive me for this.
Sure.
Going through the speed of sound. I've been through, we call it the Mach. I've been through the Mach a number of times. And there are only two ways to know that you've gone through the speed of sound. One of them is you're able to read the instruments. The first time I went through the speed of sound was in that airplane. My instructor was in the back seat and I was in the front. on my first ride. We did what they call a burner climb. Now, this is not much today, but in those days, it was a very hot airplane. We took the runway, we locked the canopy, locked the brakes, ran up to military power, rolled a couple of hundred, light the burners. A mile later at 155 knots, about 170 miles an hour, we come off the ground. And at 1,000 feet, he raised the gear immediately, raised the flaps at 1,000, held it level at 1,000 feet in maximum power until we get to 600 knots and pull up. We're leveled at 40,000 feet 3.5 minutes later from release for the brakes. That includes the takeoff roll.
Wow.
That's not much today, but in those days it held the climb record.
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The way that the technology has evolved, I
Yeah.
would think back then it was more impactful to the body than maybe it is for the pilot today. I don't know.
No, it's the other way.
Oh, really?
No, because the bodies haven't gotten any better,
I guess that's true.
or at least mine hadn't. And but so we're up there, and I know what we're going to do. He's going to show me everything this plane will do today, because from here on, he's going to show you maneuver, and then I'm going to do it till he says I can do it well enough. Then he'll show me. So I'm going to do most of our flying. But today, on what's called a dollar ride, I'm going to pay him $1 for my first ride. He's going to do all the flying. So we're going to see Jesse's flying circus today. I know that. And we leveled at 40. And we're just sitting there. And he said, check the speed. I looked down. We're at 1.2. He's taking us through the speed of sound, and I don't even know
Holy
it.
moly.
It's like sitting here.
Wow.
You do not know.
Just
There is one other way to know.
Yeah.
If you're in tight formation, if you're on what they call on the wing rather than in trail, which is behind, I'm slightly below him and outside just a little bit. A plane through the Mach puts out a bow wave. It's the boom that you hear. When you hear the boom, it didn't go through the Mach, it was through the Mach. You dragged that with you. And that bow wave is like a bow wave from a boat on a lake. Like a skier can ride it. If you're in called fingertip formation, if you're number 2, 3, or 4, you can ride the bow wave. How do I know that? Yeah.
Like drifting behind a bigger vehicle?
Yeah, you can feel it. It just bumps you around.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We got to get one of those.
Oh, yeah, right. Maybe in the next lifetime. I have enough troubles with 4 wheels.
Yeah.
So I did want to cover that because, again, to me, I was telling Scott before the podcast started, Maverick was on TV, and obviously it's Hollywood, but still, to see the maneuvering and the pinpoint accuracy of it is astounding to me. I've seen the Blue Angels in person, and all. It's just astounding what they pull off.
They did a pretty good job on the Maverick movies on everything except for the macho. That was rather grossly overplayed, I thought.
Was it?
But most of the flying stuff was pretty good.
Was it more of a brotherhood then?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a fraternity. It's a fraternity. The one that troubled me was Denzel Washington's flight. I laughed all the way through that.
Huh, tell me.
My wife kept throwing me the elbow saying, that's not funny. I said, oh, yeah, it is. Yeah.
His maneuvers were just
Some things they were doing are simply not possible.
I see.
Yeah.
That was kind of the whole premise of the movie.
Yeah, I know, but he's flying that thing upside down like that.
Yeah.
In the first place, if you could fly that plane upside down, it'd be about 40 degrees nose high.
Huh.
And the engines would quit almost immediately because they do not have inverted capability.
Right.
I mean, there was way too much wrong with that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It must be hard for you to see movies like that when it's done inaccurately.
I just sit there and laugh.
So,
I'm sure if they had a flying consultant for that movie, he begged them not to put his name on the movie. It was that bad.
Interesting. I'll have to look for that.
Yeah.
So let's catch up on the drinking now, because we all know the military culture has a pretty good drinking culture. How was that for you while you were trying to navigate flight school and everything?
They've cut that back pretty good. They're watching that a lot better these days.
But back then.
Back then, I flew with a lot of hangovers.
It was just accepted.
It was accepted.
I've heard soldiers. I was in the military group as a psychotherapist for a year with people coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan with PTSD, and they would talk about as long as you're at PT, they don't care if you're throwing up, as long as you're there doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you pin those wings on, you're just almost you're impervious. they need you. They got a lot
They've
invested in you.
Yeah.
And the only people who get a shot at you are also wearing wings. Now, they don't want you.
That's another level of freedom, Scott.
Oh,
They're
it
telling
is.
you nothing.
It is a ludicrosity. Yeah. Yeah.
So what year are we talking about when you completed flight school? What, just to get a timeline.
I got my wings on Halloween of '67.
Wow. So Vietnam was well in stride at that
Uh-huh.
time. Did you know you were going right into service there? Was that the training?
I didn't.
You didn't?
Well, I mean, what I knew was when I graduated, I drew the four-engine jet assignment. I asked for it. I wanted to fly that plane. I wanted to be an airline pilot. I figured the more four-engine jet time I had, the better they'd like it. And so I went to Oklahoma City for a 90-day school on that airplane to become a co-pilot. And then I flew all over the world for a year in the right seat of that thing. And learned a lot. There was a lot. I mean, there's a lot of knobs and dials and switches in one of those things. You kind of got to know what to do, and there's just a lot. And then I went to Vietnam in the original side-firing gunship, Puff the Magic Dragon. I did not volunteer for it. I was happy. I was in Charleston, South Carolina, flying the airplane I wanted to fly all over the world. When I say all over the world, I have flown that thing around the world twice in the same month. People are saying it's flat, it's round. I checked twice. And so the old C-47, they hung 3 miniguns in the back of it, the last 2 windows in the back door. And the pilot fired the guns. I had the sight in my left window. And one gun on slow fire put out 3,000 rounds a minute. That was designated slow fire. That's what we called it. One gun on fast fire put out 6,000 rounds a minute. We had 3 guns. And you could make a mess with one of those pretty fast.
So I'm feeling a quick time frame turnaround here from you being drafted in there, and then now you're already doing missions and in live fire situations.
And
that's quite an adjustment from being a commercial pilot.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing. And I never did get used to being shot at. There were guys that liked it.
Really?
Oh, adrenaline junkies. Oh, yeah, you must have worked with some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did.
They were. My squadron commander was insane. We were flying nights. This plane was so slow. If we flew in, the loss rate was too high in the daylight. We were just too easy to hit. And he would troll. We were supposed to guard our own base, and he could only stand that for about 30 minutes. And then they gave him a square mile where there were no good guys. If he could find it, he could have it. And he'd drop down on a canal to turn on the lights at 2 o'clock in the morning and drive around until they shot at him. And then he'd shoot until they quit shooting. And then he'd turn the lights back on and do it again. He called it trolling. He was completely insane.
It's funny how acutely you're tuned into the culture because you are part of the culture. But you're right. I've had those guys in my group that have the hardest time adjusting to being back stateside because of that adrenaline. They miss. There's nothing on earth that
Oh, it's an
compares to
adrenaline
that.
rush. There's no question about it.
I mean, I've heard them say it's the best drug there is.
I think that's what gambling is.
That's very insightful. I agree.
Yeah.
It's that chase.
So I flew the gunship for a while, and then they were phasing it out for another airplane. So they kept moving us. I was stationed at 4 different bases in South Vietnam. And then they put me in an intelligence mission. And it's kind of a long story, but I came through the side door and got my crew transferred to Thailand. One of the things we noticed immediately was that the natives had stopped shooting at us. Now, a guy like me would pay extra for that if he got a chance. It was a real nice benefit. But we're also flying a mission over Laos. And the president's on TV twice a week saying we're not in Laos. I'm flying a mission so classified we're not supposed to pray about it because God doesn't have a high enough security clearance. And I'm flying that up over Laos. And we had a lot of emergencies. Those airplanes were old. They quit making them sometime around 1940. And a lot of the insulation and the wiring was actually paper. So we had a lot of fires in flight. And not big raging fires, but fires of fire.
In the air?
And, yeah.
Yeah.
And we had, Actually, I lost contact. I had my own flight crew. I was pilot in command. I had a co-pilot, navigator, and a flight engineer. And I lost track of them when we left Southeast Asia. And 20 years later, I found them. And I said to the engineer, I said, man, I'm a storyteller. I don't know how much of these stories, I don't know if I've improved these or not. I've been telling people we caught fire 3 of our first 4 missions or belows. He said, my diary said it was 17 of the first 19.
Holy crap.
We were on fire all the dadgum time. And that's exciting stuff.
Exciting, but catastrophic. That's the
It's
last
the only
thing you
time.
want.
It's the only time you got too much gas is when you're on fire.
So
And we survived. I mean, it all worked out. But and quite frankly, I'm not going to stay on this for long. By the time I'd been in Vietnam 10 days, I realized we were not going to be allowed to win. We were not even authorized. We were not there to win. You would assume when I take off with 25,000 rounds and 3 miniguns, if somebody shoots at me, I can shoot back. That is a court-martial offense. You got to get permission to shoot back, and sometimes you can't. And I'm not going to go through all of that, but I saw that too many times.
it's a tragedy.
Yeah,
I mean,
we were not allowed to win.
Hamstringing the troops in any way when you're going to put them in danger like that is unforgivable.
You remember Moshe Dayan, the Israeli defense minister with the eye patch?
Yeah.
He visited Southeast. He would visit over there when I was there. He was interviewed on the Armed Forces Network. He was never shown in the States. But this buck sergeant said, well, General Dayan, what do you think of the situation here? And Moshe says, give me command of the Allied forces. I win this war in 2 weeks. And he would have. But he would have done things we weren't allowed to do. Just one more second on this because it's a real sore spot. We were not allowed to hit the North Vietnamese airfields. We could not hit their airplanes on the ground. We could not engage them in the air unless they showed hostile intent. You can't mean that. Oh, yes, I do. We were not allowed to bomb the Russian and Swedish ships in Haiphong Harbor as we watched them offloading anti-aircraft ammunition. I finally figured out why would I have done that. I think I know why we lost Vietnam. You want that on here?
Yeah.
Well,
we changed the topic.
a lot of that has come out, and it's unfortunate. And so many people lost their life for what?
I know.
But I also had to face that face to face with my patients coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. It's like, for what, you know?
Sure.
And it's, you guys in my book are real heroes that give everything to serve. And us have, it's only 1% of the civilized population that serves. And it's an unfair burden that we're putting on you. But at least we can do is support you. And when they say they support you in Washington, it's all talk. It's not real.
When I was flying the 4-engine jet, they used to turn my airplane into a hospital. I flew wounded out of Saigon and Da Nang.
So, did you find that drinking was taking more of a hold at that time to deal with some of that frustration and some of that stress to just calm down and maybe sleep after having to go out on these missions and everything?
I think in Southeast Asia, that was probably while I was still in Vietnam. Once we got to Thailand, it got much more gentle because we were safe on the ground.
I see.
And we're on the ground a lot more than we're in the air.
Still had to have your alert up when you were in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I get you.
But, I mean, they're lobbing mortars into the base. They're snipers. I mean, you're on red alert all the time.
Wow. All right. So, I don't want to speed you through it, but
No, that's all right.
How did this come to a close and you transitioned into the next part of your life?
I had been back from Vietnam about a year. I was instructing on the 4-engine jet. I was a flight instructor. I'm very proud of that. And the C-5A had just come out. It's at that time the world's largest airplane. And they were taking instructor pilots out of my plane to be initial cadre in the C-5A. I did not want to fly it. I knew too much. They were having way too much trouble with that thing. I was happy where I was. And I'll tell you what, if they left me there, I'd still be there. And my commanding officer called me in one day, and he said, they're taking instructors to the C-5, and pilots are only getting 18 months between Vietnam tours. So you're either going to get orders back to Vietnam or orders to the C-5 in the next 6 months. At promotion time, it's going to look so much better if you volunteered. So either volunteer for the C-5 or pick a plane you'd like to fly and volunteer for Vietnam. I said, you know what, Colonel, I think we might have missed an option. And I resigned my commission. I am honorably discharged.
Mm-hmm.
But I walked away from, most people don't get to live their dream. I got to walk away from mine.
You did live a dream.
I miss it every day.
I mean, you couldn't count on one or two hands the people who have lived the life you've lived with that.
I've been God's favorite kid. There's no question about it. And I always know what's going on in the sky. I watch the sky all day, every day.
So what came next in terms of a career, and where did you go to? Where did you move to?
Well, we moved back to Atlanta, Georgia, which was home for my first wife's family and mine. And I started looking for a job. And that was not easy to find in 1971. And so I registered with 2 or 3 of these employment agencies. They kept sending me to banks and insurance companies. Mm-hmm. And I finally realized if I was going to find a job, I'm going to have to find it myself. So I got up one morning and put on my only suit, which was several years out of style, and I picked out an office building. And I didn't even have a briefcase. I got a manila envelope with resumes in it. And I said, I'm going to knock on every door in this building today. For all I know, the dentist's secretary has got a brother who's looking for a guy like me. I'm missing nothing. Knocked on every door in that building. And I walked in, Corning Glass had an office, a regional office, and I walked in there, and there's a guy sitting on the desk, and there's a secretary, and he just points, so I sit down, and he gets off the phone and said, come on. I walked in, I handed him, I said, my name's Lee, I'm looking for a job. And he looks over the resume, he said, okay, who sent you? I said, nobody sent me. He said, how do you know we're looking for somebody? I said, I don't know you're looking for somebody. He said, what are you doing here? And I said, I told him, every door in the building. He was working with 2 of the agencies I was registered with, and none of them sent me. And I made $1,000 my first year there, more than I would have. In 1971, it was $11,000. It would have been 10 if they'd had to pay for me. And I went to work for Corning Glass. And I started out as a trainee in Florida, traveled the whole state, and then I got the territory in Louisville, Kentucky. You'll note I said it like a native.
Yeah, you did.
I did. My daughter was born here, and they were probably going to fire me sometime fairly soon.
What did you think about Louisville when you were here? What were the years?
I loved it.
What were the years for that? Because I grew up here at that time when you were here.
That would have been 82, 83.
Okay.
Somewhere, maybe, hang on for a second, probably 80, 81. And the first thing that I noted was it was a hometown. Mm-hmm. That we lived in Hikes Point, and when somebody new would move to the neighborhood, everybody got out their annuals to see if they knew them in high school. It was just a neighborhood.
It's a very small town. It's a big small town.
We did a 4th of July block party. We blocked off the street, had fireworks, and it was just a neat place to be. And the natives are friendly. You could get around town. There was a lot to do.
It's a lot to do. We don't have the headaches of larger cities, you know. We're getting a little bit more of those now, but
yeah, Nashville's getting worse by the minute.
That's what I hear from people.
Yeah, we got almost as many Yankees as people now.
That's what I heard.
They're coming fast.
They're all coming from Hollywood.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they are.
We may be next.
Everywhere.
We're trying to stay undiscovered here.
I know. Well,
don't let the word get out.
We got no state income tax.
Right.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's the big attraction.
Tons of people moving
Us
to
in
Tennessee
Florida
for that.
and Texas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Big thing. So I was going to get fired pretty soon, I was pretty sure, because I wasn't working that much. By that time, I was drinking real hard.
And was anybody saying anything to you, Scott, or reaching out to say maybe you're... Because here's what I always like to ask in people's story. Being presented with the concept that maybe I'm an alcoholic, that's a process for all of us. And I had grown up with one. I'd seen after-school specials, but I still, when they said AA and alcoholic, I still was like, what? What are you talking about? I don't grasp the concept.
No. Nobody was after me for it because I was a happy drunk. I didn't get into any trouble. I was just happy. I was the life of the party. I was doing good.
You think subconsciously you tried to say, I'm not going to be like my dad and maybe be that darker side when you drink?
I don't think I saw his alcoholism until I got sober.
I see.
what I saw was his rage. And that was so all-encompassing that I couldn't see anything else. And one of the changes that happened when I graduated from college and went to Air Force pilot training, I went from not worth the gunpowder it takes to blow me to hell to the creme de la creme. Those are his words, both sets. He was so impressed by what we were doing down there. Yeah.
And
and that began the healing.
It begins that, but there's a little bit of a hollow praise aspect to that, because my dad did sort of the similar thing when I became the star actor in high school and then went off to New York, and he was living his dreams through me, and then suddenly he had interest in me. And it's like, well, why can't you just like me for me? Why do I have to achieve something to impress you? You know?
Yeah, I didn't have that. I was just pleased that he wasn't mad anymore.
Well, that's cool.
And he just absolutely feasted. He showed up down there all the time. He lived in Atlanta. We were in Valdosta. So he showed up quite a bit.
All right, so you're getting to the end. You didn't know about the job lasting much longer.
Yeah.
What did that look like for Scott in the last days of drinking? Was that not a pretty picture?
Well, no, we're not to that quite yet.
Oh, not quite yet. Okay.
So I realized that the hammer was going to fall, and so I started scouting around for another job. And a friend of a friend of a friend had a guy who was a manufacturer's agent, an individual, independent agent, represented a number of companies, and we're looking for a guy. I interviewed the job guy. I interview good. We all do. And I got the job. So I was able to give Corning Glass 2 weeks' notice and leave out the front door instead of the back, and took the job, moved us from Louisville to Nashville, and started working for this guy. And it's a very unusual business. Is you're constantly looking for a job. You're always needing a new factory to represent, because as you get a good one and you start building it up, eventually they realize that they can pay a factory man instead of paying you a commission, and have money left for the top floor. So as they get better, that's what happens. And I was a tremendous interviewer, and we started adding factories very fast, and we started making money. He had told me once we'd been together for several years that we could talk about even partners. When I'd been with him just under a year, I said, I want to be a partner. And he said, no. And I said, I'm gone. And he said, you're a partner. And I became 49% partner at that time. And he's the one who put me in treatment. His wife had a Darvon addiction. Okay. And he went through Family Week and figured out what was wrong with me. And in June of '84, I'd been with him 3 or 4 years, and I made over $200,000 in '84. That's a lot of money that year. It's not a bad number today. It was an amazing number that year. And he figured out what was wrong with me. And so you're going to treatment immediately or we're done. And he was carrying me. I was smoking an astonishing amount of marijuana. I could afford my addictions. And I wasn't doing much work. I had all the balls in the air. I could handle it on the phone for an hour or two a day, and then go do what I wanted to do. And it was going to come crashing down.
Yet still no concept that I'm sick or what's wrong with me, right?
Well, part of the problem was that I was sure that everything I knew for sure was correct.
Trust me.
That
is a fundamental concept.
It's a fundamental problem.
Yes, for us.
Yeah. And one of the basic concepts of recovery is some of what I know for sure ain't so. And it was surely when I came to you, one of my problems was what I didn't know. My biggest problem was things I knew for sure they're actually incorrect. I think my recovery began as I was able to release my grip on the things I knew for sure. And that continues today. We talk about old ideas. I give you a definition. Old ideas, everything I learned through noon yesterday is now an old idea. Because I got to be ready to build on it. Got to be ready. And I knew for sure, number one, I knew I was an alcoholic. And because I knew what an alcoholic looked like. Yeah, I'd seen them with trench coats. And I still have my house. I'm making $200,000. I built a 4,000 square foot house in a fancy subdivision. The country coming out of the recession in '82, General Motors hadn't made a convertible in several years. They made 400 Buick Riviera convertibles that year. You want to take a wild guess who was driving a white on white with a red interior?
My man.
That was a good guess. Yeah. And I got it by the tail. And I knew what a lot of people know, and that's that marijuana isn't addictive. So I can't be addicted to it. But I am smoking my first one by 10 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so my MO is I get up at 7, clean up, drink some coffee, eat some breakfast, walk into my office, sit down, and make a few business calls. Here's how I make the business call. Because if I pick up the phone and just make the call, by the time it's rung twice, I forgot who I called. When he answers, I recognize his voice. I know who he is, but I don't know why I called. So I write down Charlie Gadsey, Clark Hardware, road promotion, and hold my pencil on it, and then I dial and call him. The man with a plan.
Functional.
The man with
functional
a plan.
alcoholic.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Wino Joe defined a functional alcoholic as one whose wife works.
That's a good one.
And so that's the shape I was in, and yet I knew you couldn't be addicted to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the senior partner said to me, "You're going to treatment right now or you're fired. We're done." And I knew I couldn't carry the ball. And so I said, okay. And I did 4th of July block party for this subdivision of about 100 houses, complete with a parade. I hang it out. If I do, I got 2 positions. I got wide open. I got down and locked. That's all I got. And I'm wide open. And I'm going to be the MC of this thing, the parade marshal, and I got the games for the kids. And so I go 2 doors down to my friend Crazy Sidney, and I tell him what's going on, that I'm leaving for treatment in the morning. And he's going to have to take over this 4th of July block party. And he gave me a Miller Lite, and I drank half of it. And I am so ashamed to have gone down like that. If I'd known it was the end, it would have been a double jack with a water back or something with a little bit of class to it, a little style. A light beer, and I only drank half of it. How do you get over that?
You'd be surprised. Of all the stories I've heard, the majority, for sure, but the vast majority are actually more of a whimper than a bang. And
Yeah,
I
it
had
was.
one toke off a joint of dirt weed off the street. That was my last use. and I'd already been to treatment twice, already been to a halfway house, and I said, this is going to kill me. And I threw it in the toilet, and for some reason,
Wow.
that was everything that had been building up from everything everybody had taught me and all the treatment centers and going to meetings. I knew what I had to do. It was time to buckle down and go to 90 meetings in 90 days and stop screwing around. That was my bottom. Or I was going to die. I was going to be homeless in Minneapolis, and I don't know a soul there because I was shipped there for treatment. And they have cold winters, and I don't do homeless well.
My wife was absolutely astounded. She had no idea I had a problem.
Yeah.
What had happened, I'd been introduced to marijuana about 5 years before by a sales manager for a major corporation that I worked with. And I was drunk that night. I had never done it myself. And it blew the top of my head off. And I went home with that stuff. I thought, man, if I can get her to smoke this and lighten up, we might make it. I believe that right now. And, she went off like a bomb. That's illegal. A good salesman knows when he can't make a sale. Oh, you're right. What was I thinking? This is insane. I got to flush this stuff. Never again. I'd been off of cigarettes for about 3 years at that point. I went out and bought a carton of Marlboros because I'm going to be smoking this stuff. I'm going to have to cover it. Mm-hmm. So I'm hiding it from her. Mm-hmm. And I drink enough beer occasionally, so if I seem a little tipsy, I've got a reason to be that way. But that marijuana cured my alcoholism in one hit.
It's amazing when I hear so many stories in my professional role, and there's sort of a hand in glove effect of your genealogy and your chemistry of your body as to what drug fits what person. So of the two, I love hearing all these details about your story because it sounds like marijuana really fit the bill for a certain time of your story.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. I don't tell it.
Yeah, well, obviously, but I like to know the truth. Mm-hmm. I'm a truth teller. That's all there is.
I'm not hiding it.
But to me, it makes your story more fleshed out because I don't know a pure juicer that much anymore in the program.
Yeah.
You know, we honor the traditions, but
Yeah.
I had somebody explain on a speaker tape I was listening to the other day, and it was a good old timer, real deal. And he was saying, actually, the General Service Office has approved that if you tell your story, you're allowed to tell the truth about what you used. We just don't banty around at meetings and stuff. But if you're telling your story, then yes, you can tell your story.
Well,
That had to be approved, right? Because everybody gets bent out of shape for you telling the truth of what your story is.
Bill mentions it in his story.
No
Brian
doubt.
found me drinking milk, gin, and sedative.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Bob mentions it once too. So
Goof-
that's what I do.
Goofballs.
If you listen to my talks, I mention it once. Pool hall where I drank my beer and bought my dope. That's what I say.
And it's, you know, so for anybody out there, you don't have to apologize. We don't want to beat people over the head with our story,
No.
but you don't have to apologize for telling your truth. To me, that always seemed a little hypocritical because you guys are inviting me to tell you my experience, strength, and hope. I have to tell you my experience.
Yeah.
And so, and Burns used to sometimes apologize. Says, well, I'm sorry. I might have to talk about methamphetamines, but that was part of my story. And it's like, yeah, it's your story. You're not glorifying it or anything.
No.
All right, so here you are. What treatment center did they ship you off to, Mr. Scott?
I went to Ridgeview
Yeah.
in Smyrna, Georgia.
They have a good reputation back then. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Well, it was expensive. It was $15,000 a month.
Mhm.
That was a pretty good number back then.
And it,
And it was the one that his wife had gone to. So that's how he picked it. I mean, I just surrendered.
so back then, most of the treatment centers that I went to as well were following the so-called Minnesota model, which was the 28-day treatment. Is that what that was for you?
It was scheduled 28 days. I zipped through it in 6 weeks flat.
Why did you stay over?
Uh,
Your counselor said, I think you need more help, Scott.
yeah. They thought I needed to stay a little bit longer.
Did anybody reach you? Was there a counselor that sort of called you on your bullshit a little bit and sort of tripped you up in your...
No, that was not what happened to me. I had that white light experience the fourth night I was there.
Okay, I'd like to hear about that. If
Um,
that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I didn't sleep. It's kind of interesting. I've worked in treatment centers off and on for the last decade. It never ceases to amaze me that they have the coffee pot running all day. Those people are getting zonked on caffeine. They're drinking Red Bulls and stuff. I thought, and then they're ricocheting around in group like a golf ball hitting a bathroom. It's insane. And I did that. And I was jacked up on coffee. And I didn't sleep the first 3 nights. Plus, I could afford my addictions. I showed up with a full load.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't sleep the first 3 nights. Laying there the fourth night, no, I ain't going to sleep again. I don't remember exactly. Lights out at 11. I got to stay till 6 in the morning, ballpark. Short bathroom breaks. I lay there. And it's a long night, man. And I'm laying there. And this happened to me. I didn't do it. I began to see my life like you might see a series of short movies, the important events. And I've always given myself credit for my intentions. I'm most likely the best intended person you'll ever meet. I do close-up magic. And my favorite one was I was going to get a clown suit. And when I was on the road, instead of running the bars or chasing the girls, put on a clown suit, take my magic kit into a children's hospital. You got to take a great guy. Now, I haven't done it yet. But I am taking full credit because, one of these days. And this night when I see my life, the intentions are not there. It's not a pretty story. And I got to the point where I began to think about the worst thing I'd ever done. I'd always been able to stop that before. Jack Daniels can help me with that. Jose Cuervo, very helpful on that. Mary Jane, my old girlfriend, oh yeah, she can help me with that. Well, they're not there in that treatment center. And I can't get this thing off of me. It's like the creature on Alien. I can't get anything between me and this horrible thing I've done. I do not know how long I lay there like that. It was a long time. And the most spiritual, emotional pain I've ever felt. And from somewhere in my chest, my vocal cords didn't move, this didn't happen in my mind, screamed. It was internal, but it was loud. God forgive me. And everything I'm about to tell you happened in the next instant. If you had x-rays taken of your teeth when they lift that lead apron off of you, something that felt like that flew off of me. And my body felt so light, I thought it was going to float off the bed, and it did not scare me. At the same instant, this magnificent white light came on, just shining on me and on my bed. And the light had a texture and a warmth. And I could feel it in every cell of my body, and I was aware of every cell of my body. And it felt so good it almost hurt. And I cannot explain that. there was a partition about a foot behind my head that came within about a foot of the ceiling, and the light was all coming over, but it all focused just on me. I have never seen light do that. There were about the size of my hand some geometrical shapes here and there in this partition of various colors. I think I remember a green one. I think I remember a yellow one. Light coming through them and all focused just on me. And what I knew in that moment was God was right there, and that he had the power to forgive me. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, and I could, with my eyes closed, I could see that room better detail. I can see this one now. And I knew that God was there. He had the power to forgive me, and I was forgiven. I used to say he forgave me, but I don't speak for God. I don't like to be around people that do. I don't know if he ever judged me. I simply don't know. I know that I received his forgiveness there for the worst thing I'd ever done. And I lay in the presence of infinite love, and I don't know how long. I've wondered and thought about this a lot, and I think I know why the partition was there. Sick as I was, I could only stand so much love. And that's why I say when it felt so good it almost hurt, I think that's what it means. I don't know. That's what I think. I'm not aware of anything else that passed between us. I simply do not know. And I can tell you that what we call time does not exist in that presence. 0.2 of a second and 3 months are the same number there. I cannot explain that either. I know it's true. And I lay there and basked in infinite love, and as I say, I simply don't know how long. I do know that at some point I went to sleep, and I know that because I woke up the next morning. I had not done that in several days. And I woke up wanting to be one of his guys, and that was my first cornerstone. And I think those who did not have one of those is because they weren't sick enough to need one. It's not because I was special. It was because they just weren't sick enough to need one, and I was. Nothing else was going to reach me. And that was the beginning. And I knew that there was a God who loved me beyond my ability to receive love. I know that right now. Nothing has shaken that.
If you had to put an emotion on that today, what emotion would you put on that? How's that feel to think about that? Because that's the whole podcast right there, ladies and gentlemen. That was a special moment.
Mm-hmm.
Euphoria doesn't begin to cover it. It does not begin to cover it. It's just euphoria squared or cubed. Just absolutely. If I could go back there this second, I wouldn't even tell you goodbye. I would just go.
I was exchanging texts with a good friend of ours, Justin, who's been on the podcast. We were talking about spiritual awakenings, and he sent me some quote from the Veda or something. And it was right on target with what Bill was describing in his hospital room, which is very similar to what you were describing in your story. And as you hear, I'm a bit of a scientist in my approach to spirituality. I need something that's practical. Can I use this tool? Does it make a difference in my life? And so that's how AA got me, is I saw results. And I'm like, oh, this works. And there is a power there to help you. We try to put words on it, and that just diminishes it. And we were talking about the similarities of people's experiences, and after you hear enough of these stories, you're like, how can you deny that evidence? I mean, it's not anecdotal past a certain point. And I agree with you. There are people, including Bill Wilson, he would not have gotten that any other way than being smack dabbed and God smacked, as they call it, or whatever. And
I would like to add, too,
yeah.
I do not believe that event alone would have put this 41-year chip in my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Every year, I tell this story quite a bit. People come up to me and say, I had one of those experiences just like yours and drank again after it. I hear it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was necessary to do the rest. It was just a cornerstone. But if I didn't build on it, I wouldn't still be here.
That's something that Burns taught me as Bill was running around, and people were like, I need to have this spiritual awakening like you, Bill. And he said no, because at 6 months, I was in Ohio wanting to drink worse than ever. It's not that. It's the educational variety. It's the slow version.
That's where
that
the
you build
magic
on.
is.
Yeah.
That's where the magic is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think me being an enthusiast, if I had had your experience, I'd have been running off telling everybody about God like Bill was down in the Bowery trying to save the drunks out of the gutter there.
Well, I was still detoxing. I mean, I could afford my addictions.
Mm-hmm.
I had a full load.
Was it a long detox?
It was.
Yeah.
It still is, I think.
Good thing you were in
Sometimes I
shape,
wonder-
though. I mean, from your military training and everything, your body was able to bounce back from all that damage.
What I was used to was giving up my body.
Huh.
Going to fly acrobatics at 9/10 of the speed of sound, pulling 7.5 Gs. Do you know what a G is?
Strong force of nature.
You're pulling 1 G right now. It's the force of gravity. At 200 pounds, at 1 G, a 200-pound man weighs 200 pounds. At 5 Gs, a 200-pound man weighs 1,000 pounds. That's exactly what everything on you now weighs times 5. We pull 7.5 regularly in that airplane.
Crazy.
You cannot imagine how hard that is on the body. And then add a force 5 hangover to that. Ooh. Ooh. Ouch.
So did they have meetings come into the treatment center? Was that your introduction into the
It
program?
was.
Okay.
It was. I've been sober since a couple days before my first meeting. Yeah. Yeah, they came in. And
what did you think about the message they were carrying? Did anything strike you at first? Did you argue with it?
I was still squirrely as a city park. I was in and out of actually even being there.
Uh-huh.
What I knew was when I had the big white light experience that I wanted to be one of God's guys. And whatever was necessary to make that happen, I was going to do. That's what I knew.
So that was your focal point to hold on to despite the...
That was the piece I held on to.
Gotcha.
And that and the fact that my way didn't work. I finally got to see the truth. I'll tell you, people think quitting out drinking forever is a difficult thing, and it's not. I've done it over 2,000 times. I'm a nose puker. I puke out my nose, and when I puke out my nose, I quit forever. And I know it's over 2,000. It might be over 3. I know it's over 2. Yeah, so the question isn't, how do I not do that again? The question is, how can we change me so I never want to do it again?
Yes.
And that's the magic here.
Yes.
I tell the newcomers I spoke at a treatment center the other day, say, you're here and you're having to hang on, hang. But it's not the long-term plan. The long-term plan is happy, joyous, and free, and that stuff ain't calling your name anymore. That's the long-term
I
plan.
don't need it. I don't want it. I try to tell my patients that on a daily basis, that it's not fighting it. It's that once
No.
you get through the struggle of early recovery and you work these tools, I can promise you, because it's happened to me and so many people we can't even count, that the result of the 12 steps is you will not want it. It says so on page 86. It's no longer a problem for us. The problem does not exist.
It just doesn't call my name. I don't like steamed broccoli. Actually, the smell of it makes me want to retch.
Yeah,
It's just how it is for me.
I agree.
And wife number 2 was cooking some for herself in the kitchen. And I walked through there and smelled it by mistake and almost threw up. I'm having the same amount of trouble staying away from booze I am from staying away from steamed broccoli. It just ain't calling my name. Because the alcohol and drugs for me were not my problem, they were my answer. And I found a better answer. And once I have a better answer, the old answer doesn't call my name anymore.
And it's a better answer, not what they think. It's like, oh, now he's the good guy doing good deeds. No, the better answer is, I'm actually happier. I'm actually more fulfilled. I feel like I have a purpose in life. I have a meaning to get out of bed in the morning. We get so much out of this program coming in, we have no concept how much we get out of this if we just do the steps.
Yeah, and it works through tough times. I was diagnosed with cancer in my throat in June of 20. The first thing to do was take my teeth, because they're going to do so much radiation to my face that they killed my jawbone. It's still here, but it's dead. Mm-hmm. And you can't have live teeth in a dead jawbone. They did so much radiation to my face that my throat is all scar tissue. They thought I was going to be a feeding tube for the rest of my life. I can swallow liquids only. I'm on a liquid diet for the rest of my life. It's not a big deal. I can't be on a liquid diet. It's just a different liquid. That's how I look at it.
That's a really good attitude you got there, I'll tell you.
I'll tell you, radiation and chemo is rough as a stucco toilet seat. I'll tell you right now. And I went through that for 6 weeks. And my sponsor says I'm the poster child. I said, how did you do that? Because I had a good attitude. He said, how did you do it? I said, well, the first piece is, I know there's a God that loves me. And I hold that thought. The second piece is, I stayed in today. I never allowed myself to say, oh, this has been going on so long. That's borrowing pain from the past. I don't know how much longer I can do this. That's borrowing pain from the future. One day at a time. I'm the poster child for it, living just in this day. All the good questions contain the word today, and all the good answers contain the word today. And I've been living that for a long time. And the third piece was, I stayed focused on how I could help you. I told my sponsees, I said, your first thought is wrong as usual. You're thinking, Scott's got this life-threatening disease. He does not need my small problems. You got it exactly wrong again, gentlemen. I need your hangnails. I need to get out of me, and there's no way out. If I can get into you as a side effect, I'm out of me. Come to me with your small things. On 2 different occasions, I got into what I call depression. For me, depression is nothing different from thinking about myself in a bad future. And I got into that for about 20 minutes twice. And I followed the instructions. I picked up the phone, called you, and said, what's going on in your life? How can I make it better? How can I lift your spirit? Brought me right out of there. And that's how I did it. I stand today. Remember, there's a God that loves me. See, I know the great truth. I don't always share this, but I'm going to share it. You know what the great truth is? In the long run, we're all dead. We are just passing through here. Right? Life's a school, and love is a subject. And this is about learning to love. Learning to love the unlovable, learning to love myself, learning to love what's going on in my life today, whatever that is. And as I do that, things become good. I thought I was supposed to be a pilot in command of my life. No, I'm supposed to be sitting in the back playing with the other passengers. I've got a pilot command. I fired me as general manager of my own life based on my performance. Good manager would have fired me maybe 3 decades earlier. Yeah. And this morning, I'm going to share one more piece with you. I know we're probably running kind of long here.
No, we're doing good. You're doing fine.
Okay. Well,
I love it.
Me too.
as long as I've been doing
We're
this,
hanging on your every word, Scott.
Yeah. I'll sit here all day long, man.
as long as I've been doing this, it was easy for me this morning to offer God my will in my life, the rest of my life. It was easy to offer him today. You know what the hard piece is? Offering the moments. Staying in contact all the time. I'll probably tell this tonight. I hope I do. This lesson was first presented to me when I had about 2 years. I'm what they call a type A personality. I get in that car, I am going somewhere, right? I stopped at my 5th traffic light in a row, and I'm sitting there steaming, thinking evil thoughts about that traffic light's mother, when it occurs to me, it's possible that God used those traffic lights to keep me from being in a wreck with a gasoline truck. I don't know. To be able to offer him, we got these funny words we use. It's like, I'm having a good day, I'm having a bad day. Give me a definition. Good day, Scott's will is being done. Bad day, Scott's will is not being done. Is that it? Interrupt if I make a mistake here.
That's it.
Okay. Well, you can bring that down to the moment. Is my will being done in this moment? And what I'm learning, and I've had a little bit of progress recently. I've been working on this for maybe 2.5 to 3 years, trying to learn that each time my will is not being done, it's an invitation to prayer. Pritz used to do it. He said when it wasn't going like he wanted, he would look up and say, as you wish. I'm trying to learn that one. And so I told you I'm 82 years old. I've got a young girlfriend. She's 78. And my home group meets on Wednesday nights at 6, 2.5 blocks from my house. I want to leave at 5:29. I taught. I'm going to be 30 minutes early at my home group. That's what I was taught to do. She says, I'm thinking about buying a house in your neighborhood, and I found one online. Can we go look at it tonight on the way to the meeting? I said, sure, we'll leave early. Now, what I don't know is that leave early is not one of her settings. However, we know that this house is on the North American continent, and we eventually locate it. And instantly she realizes this one won't work. Then she says, can we stop at the dollar store? I want to get one item. Part of my morning prayer is I ask God to bless me that I might be the man she deserves, might love her and cherish her and treasure her, be an open channel for him into her life, and her an open channel for God into my life. And what flashes through my mind when she asked that is, what would a man who treasured a woman say to that? And the answer was, of course. So we pull up in front of the dollar store. We're still in my neighborhood. Pull up in front of the dollar store. She goes in. I go into prayer because I'm going to need some divine help. I'm about to be presented with a 24-karat gold opportunity to keep my mouth shut. I'm going to have a real good chance to keep my mouth shut here any minute. She's gone, it seems to me, an inordinately long period of time. She comes out. I do not yet know what that one item was that she bought. I can tell you it came out in 2 bags. I can tell you that much about it. And as she got into the car, she said, I'm sorry I was so long. There was a homeless guy in line in front of me who had selected more items than he had money for, and I bought some of his stuff for him. And I said, that's one of the reasons you're sitting next to me. We pull up in front of the church where my group meets. Now, 25 is a big crowd for us, and I know them all. As we pull up, I see a young man I do not recognize walking up the steps. I shut it down, I open her door, I grab my book. As we walk into the door of the church, that young man's coming out. I stop him and introduce myself. He's a newcomer. And he couldn't get all the way in. He couldn't go through the second door. And I was able to take him in there and introduce him around. I don't remember. There's a very good chance I gave him a sponsor. I do that a lot. I'm not taking any credit for that. I ask him, do you see it? God's timing is dead, solid, perfect. Scott's will was not done about what time we left the house, how long it took to find that place, to sit in front of that dollar store, to pull, and we're still there before the meeting starts. God's timing is absolutely perfect. And he used those moments when Scott's will was not done to hit, what, a 20-second window? 30 seconds? So a guy with 41 years can catch a kid with 40 days and get him into his meeting. And I'm learning slowly. This has been a long lesson for me. I am not a skyrocket to success to offer him those times when my will isn't being done. And just love it, say, thy will be done. Thank you for the reminder.
And if I'm going to go through the trouble of asking my higher power to use me as a tool in the master's hand to help somebody today, why am I getting bent out of shape about the schedule?
Yeah.
But, you know, it's us doing one of our biggest character defects, in my opinion, running off half-cocked with half information, thinking we know it all and we know everything the way it's supposed to go down, and you need to let the freak go. Just let go a little bit. That's all.
I think it's based on if I can get what I want, I'll be happy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Like if it goes this way, then for sure it'll work out and I'll be happy. But God forbid it doesn't work out this way, something's going to go wrong. I won't get what I want.
Yeah. But that lesson has been presented to me a number of times. I'm telling that, so I've got several other stories just like that. That my will not being done put me right where I needed to be, in a tight window. And I can't remember that all the way to the car in the morning.
Right.
And let me tell the newcomers watching, that's the magic of recovery, right? We had magic when we found our drugs and alcohol, and we said, wow, what is this ethereal, not everyday life experience I'm having here? Those moments where you're put in the right place at the right time, pure magic, pure magic.
Oh, it is. It is indeed.
So I did want to touch on, before we wrap it up, that Scott is an author and has written several books that you may get on Amazon. His name is Scott Lee. Just do Scott Lee.
Scott
Amazon.
J.
What?
Do Scott J. Then
Scott
you'll
J.
hammer in on it.
And do you want to talk about your books and the recent one that you put out?
Yeah, the most recent one, I've already sort of referenced it. It's Life is a School, Love is a Subject. And
it's fantastic.
My lady has got us using it as one of our morning daily reading books.
Does she really?
Uh-huh.
That's nice.
Your
What a
own book.
compliment, actually.
Yeah, it really is. The one before that is Anger and Grief Relief. I discovered the source of all anger. I know where it all comes from. It comes from being sure I'm right. I've never been angry where I wasn't absolutely certain I was right, and being right comes from having passed judgment. I have to judge to be right to be angry. So judgment is anger's grandmother, and it's the core problem. That's why I can't work on my anger. Anger is a symptom. The problem is judgment. And I added to my morning prayer that I don't judge. I judge any people, judge any situations. I've gotten tremendous relief on that. And because of that, I am rarely angry. Rarely angry. And then I wrote one, Stop Smoking the Hard Way. If one of the easy ways it worked, you wouldn't be reading this. It's how I quit smoking in the summer of '85. I wrote one, a whimsical one, True Fish Stories and Other Lies. There are true fish stories and there are other lies in there. And my mission on this one is for you to doubt the true ones and buy the lies. And having told you that, I'll get you most of the time anyway. And then I wrote Spirituality for the Religiously Challenged. That was my first one. And I wrote,
which is very useful.
Yeah.
What was the thrust of that book?
Because I was religiously challenged, and yet I needed spirituality. Religion hadn't shown me anything. God's will. You're going to hell. Some very well-meaning people trying to scare a guy like me into being good. I don't scare. So religion had not worked for me. And so I considered myself religiously challenged, and yet I needed spirituality. So that's where the title came from.
And knowing just to separate the two.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, many people are convinced that if you say spirituality, you mean religion.
No.
It's not true.
They travel well together, but sometimes not. Sometimes not. And then the other one I wrote is, when I had my white light experience, I thought, holy mackerel, I can't make a living as a salesman now. I was wrong. I was wrong. The difference between a sale and a con is a sale is true, and true is a yes or no question. It's not an essay question. It's a yes or no. And the title of that one is Salesmen Can Go to Heaven. And it's a spiritual approach to selling. And it's interesting, a number of people that I know who are not salespeople say that may be the best thing I wrote because there's so many practical things in it. Yeah, that might be all of them.
Nope, one more.
Well, help me.
I must be God's favorite
I
kid.
think, yeah. Well, they were pumping the chemo into my arms, which is just poison.
All right.
I'd sit for 3 hours at a time at the VA, and they'd pump that stuff in. I thought, I'm not wasting this time. And so I started writing. Burke Harlan, if you don't know that name, do yourself a favor and do one of his talks. Most spiritual man I ever expect to know.
How do you spell it? B-U?
Harlan. I'll send you one of his talks.
Yeah, please.
The only one I know of. But he had 3 near-death experiences where he was dead, had conversations with God, and came back. I wish you could have looked at his face when he talked about that. But thinking about some of the things he said, I thought, if I could relive 7 days of my life exactly as they happened, 24, not a week, but 24-hour periods, which ones are they? Came up with 14. So I wrote about that. I wrote about that first time I went through the speed of sound, because that day, riding that white rocket's what we call that airplane. And so I wrote about those. And then I thought, I've had these great mentors in my life. Who were they? What have I learned from them? And that's another 12 or 14. And then some spiritual exercises and things. And the title is, I think I've got to be God's favorite kid. And I think it's true. I think I am. No one's had a more fascinating trip than I have. It's really been something.
I wish we all could have that gratitude for each of our experiences. And being able to pick out those 14 days to 5 days, whatever it is for the person, to focus on that instead of the bad things that happened, you know? Because we lose track of that. We lose track of the good things that happen.
I had to step out of a good, bad thing, because that's judgment. So I don't get to judge it. I don't get to judge it. I don't judge events as good or bad. I can tell you I like them or I don't. I've had the privilege of doing full weekend workshops in Moscow twice, St. Petersburg, Russia twice, and Kiev, Ukraine 3 times.
Can I ask what that's like to go to Russia?
I know people on both sides of that war, and yet I can't look at the war and say it's bad. I don't know. For all I know, that war has turned more people toward God than all the churches in the universe. I don't know.
Right.
So when I step out of the business of judging good or bad, I don't get angry. I'm not angry. They are so hungry for it. It was such a fact. I went to Ukraine the first time. The usual suspects is our men's retreat in Nashville. I started it in '89. And we didn't used to be able to sell all the seats, so we comped in the guys from a men's treatment center. And Oleg was getting his master's at the University of Chattanooga when he developed it. He seems that he had a little vodka problem. And he wound up in this treatment center, and he's there. And he asked me one night, he said, would you get me a sponsor? And my ego said, I said, yeah, I'll pray about it. We'll talk about it tomorrow morning. And as I prayed about it, my ego said, well, Scott, this was a shot at the entire Soviet bloc, and I'm taking it. So I announced at breakfast the next morning that I was going to be his sponsor. He still reminds me frequently, I never asked you to sponsor me. I asked you to give me a sponsor. It's not the same thing. He's carrying a 19-year chip. And I got him through the 12 steps before he went back to Ukraine. And I said, get a sponsor over there. I know he's over there. I know the guy that took it. I know it's over there. We stayed in touch. He's an officer on a multinational corporation. He has a U.S. telephone. He says there's no sponsors here and nobody can get 6 months. Mm-hmm. We've got the big book in Russian that we all read and understand, but nobody can figure out how to use it. And there are no sponsors. And when I speak in meetings, they line up like I'm a circuit speaker. And so I need you to keep sponsoring me. So I did. And I said, you're going to have to sponsor a couple of women. Got to start somewhere. And so he sponsored Eula and Kiev, and he sponsored Valentina in St. Petersburg, Russia. And it's just been an astonishing thing. So that's how Don Major got over there. Mm-hmm. Is through my contact with Oleg.
Wow.
And so he took me over the first time, and I did a series of lectures on the 12 steps which you talked about I did in Montana. I've been recorded maybe 500 times. It's been going on a long time. It's not my fault. I didn't ask for this. And I did that, and he's sitting next to me translating it into Russian. And he knows what I'm going to say because that's what I did with him. So it goes very quickly. And those CDs flew all over the Soviet Union. And then I was asked back. I actually did workshops in Lutsk and Lviv, which is 2 other cities in Ukraine. And then I went to Moscow the first time with Sasha, which is their nickname for Alexander, by the way, or Alexandra. It goes either way. And his people, and I did a whole weekend over there. And you speak over there, they freeze. We got people getting up to get coffee and whatever. No. You're talking to stone faces over there.
You'll get that tonight. You'll get that. Everybody's hanging on your word tonight at our group.
But they are just so hungry for it. And they're such loving people. Sasha, one of the first things he said to me was, I was taught as a child to fear you. I said, I was taught as a child to fear you. Here we are. I think COVID has helped our fellowship so much because it sent us to Zoom. I'm doing, on an average, probably pretty close to 1 Zoom meeting a week, translated into Peruski, which is their name for the Russian language. It's still going on.
God bless you.
Saying I'm just back from Bulgaria. Bulgaria? I didn't know which way to turn out of the driveway to go to Bulgaria.
Right.
And now I sponsor a guy from there. And it's just been amazing. I've spoken, I think, in about 15 other countries, and just fell out of the sky on me. I didn't ask for this.
I do want to say, on the Zoom change, it's funny how many people got bent out of shape about that. And I always say, God's got it. God has a plan. Figure it out. Just relax. And yes, I agree. I think it freed us up to reach more people.
Well, it unified us worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the only one doing that. I've just gotten another call from Iran.
Wow,
I'm going to speak for them. I've got one right now. Since I've been in this building, I've been communicating with somebody in India that wants me to do one.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's literally unifying us worldwide and helping us to clarify our message. I've been working with Grigori in Moscow. The Russian translation of the Big Book is not good. It was translated by somebody who's not on our fellowship. And I'll give you an example. Instead of fear in the 4th step, it says cowardice.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so there are some problems of that nature.
Wow.
And a lot of times when I'm talking, my translator will say, hang on a minute, this is a bad translation. And then he talks for a while before he comes back to me. So Grigori and several of his friends who also speak English, Grigori's English is as good as yours. It's not as good as mine, but it's as good as yours. And He and his English-speaking group had been working on that, and I've been working with them for a year. Well, they call me up. They got this question of these minute stuff. They want to get it right, and they have finally finished it and sent it to New York, and I don't know where it's going to go from there. It's been absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Just fascinating. I'll tell you this. Borscht is beet and potato soup. And every woman in the Soviet Union makes the best there is. And you'd be well advised to eat it all and say so. And if I don't ever see another, I lose weight every time I go over there. And those big high rises they live in, the penthouse is on the ground floor.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Here's why. So you don't have to ride the urine-soaked, unsafe elevator.
Interesting. You don't have to hobnob with the other residents.
That's exactly right.
That's interesting.
That's exactly right.
Interesting.
So, Scott, for sure, higher power has a lot more in store for you to do. And you're not going anywhere anytime soon, we don't think. And
I'm having a good time.
And what he embodies for me, folks, is this idea that Bill says continue in step 10. And that's the goal. He said this work will continue for your lifetime. And I've modeled myself on that. And I'm always amazed at how much more is revealed and how much more I learn. I've been going through a lot lately where I'm learning a lot of things. And I never want to lose that spirit of being able to learn new things.
I got 5 more minutes.
We got all the time in the world, Scott.
I was sitting by a stream,
Time don't mean nothing.
and I looked across, I saw a cloud, and I thought, every drop of rain in that cloud is following God's will perfectly. I'm sure of it. So is that tree, so is a bird, so is a little fish in the stream. Why can't I? They can do it. Why can't I? It was on me hard. I got the answer, and the answer is I am. I do not believe God put me here to be perfect. It's not my assignment. Well, if I'm not supposed to be perfect, what's my assignment? My assignment is to make mistakes. They've sent the right guy. And I've been told all my life, well, we learn from our mistakes. No, we don't. If we learn from our mistakes, you don't know if I've been arrested more than once. Good luck. No, we do not learn from our mistakes. They're wrong about that. We learn from living with the results of our mistakes. So here's the definition, a mistake. It's an invitation to a lesson. The evidence is, if I'd already learned the lesson, would not have made the mistake. It's just a lesson dressed in its work clothes. And I don't have the power to make a mistake so ugly that God can't turn it into wonderful. I watch him regularly using the worst things I've ever done as tools to help other people. That's what he does. So here's the learning process as I understand it today. 1, make a mistake. 2, be notified I made a mistake. I don't always know. Sometimes you got to tell me. 3, own a mistake. Oh, yeah, fellas, I did that. If they don't know 80%, I got to tell them the other 20. Own it. 4, consult a spiritual advisor about how to. 5, make the amend. Usually, not always, but usually there's an amendment made. 6, embrace the lesson. The lesson comes not from making the mistake. I don't even know. It comes from making the amend. We're not punished for our sins. We're punished by them. And as I make the amends, I free myself from the pillory of my mistake. So 6 is embrace the lesson. 7 is share the lesson. When I share it, it really sets it for me. 8, when I share the lesson, I have to tell you I made a mistake. If I just share the lesson, I'm preaching and nobody wants to hear it. 9, make the next mistake. We use progress. We talk about progress all the time. I'll give you Scott's definition. Progress is making the same old mistake a little less often, or making a new and finer quality of mistake. Anything beyond that's perfection, and that's not the assignment. So there's a tremendous freedom in giving myself permission to make mistakes. I have no idea what God's plan is. I know what his will is. It's for me to screw up. It's why I'm here. That's why I was put in this body. So I could make these mistakes and have these lessons presented. That's why I'm here. But it's only half the freedom. The other half is you have my permission to make mistakes. That includes all the men I sponsor, all my family members, major politicians I like and don't like, my husband-in-law. Husband-in-law is the guy who's married to my first wife. Okay? Those of you who got your driver's licenses out of Cheerios boxes, everybody has my permission to make mistakes. Because I'm not going to be upset by your behavior. I'm a prisoner of your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be a prisoner anymore. So half the freedom, I have my own permission to make mistakes. The other half, you have my permission to make mistakes. And those two things have combined to free me at a level I did not know was possible. And brought me a tremendous sense of peace. My history, when I realized I made a mistake, there's energy there, and I use it to beat myself up. It's not what it's there for. It's there to propel me through that learning process. That's what the energy's for.
Fantastic.
I do rave on, don't I?
Yeah, I love it.
It's beautiful.
And that's something.
You know what Scott's talking about here, folks, is in a nutshell why this program made so much sense to me. Because, like I said, I'm logical, I'm practical, and I want to see how does this thing work. And so what you described with that 8-step, not even all 10, say 6-step process, that is the way to freedom. That is the way to get out from under.
That's right.
From suffering by the consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
And it all begins with, I was wrong.
I was wrong.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
But the ego and the pride, I have seen unbelievable levels in the patients I treat. I mean, it's just uncanny that they will not give up the ghost just to be right.
Yeah.
And that kills us.
That's right.
We go right into the grave with that shit.
And being right is the source of their anger.
Tell me
anger,
more.
and that anger energy has got to be bled off somehow. Have you ever heard a preacher preaching hear an undercurrent of anger in their preaching? It's because they're sure they're right. That's where it comes from. At least that's what I think.
I think you're spot on, sir. And again, this has been an extreme treat. And I do want to catch you up, if you don't mind, just take a moment. What we're trying to do here in Louisville, and maybe Dan's told you a little bit of it, is there's a natural progression to how the steps have sort of assimilated themselves into so many different groups, right? We had Al-Anon, then we had Narcotics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, and now there's a group for everything out there. If you get on Google and look it up, there's over hundreds of groups. Mm-hmm. But what there isn't, as I see it, is a group for normal people. Now, that is a euphemism, but people who don't identify as a label. And so what we did in town here is we decided to do an outreach because I didn't see anybody else. I'm like, shouldn't we be responsible for carrying the message to these normal people in a world gone crazy that maybe they need these tools too? So we started this group in town, and I'm redoing a book which should be out after January, which is geared right towards the newcomer who has no experience with AA, no experience with any of these tools, and is just a normal person, not an alcoholic, to do the steps, and they all get the same result. And Dan and I, when we started this thing, we brought people in not knowing if normal people would get the same bang zoom. Oh, hell yeah, they got the same bang zoom to their life. And we also were in a position where we had to sponsor women at first because there was nobody else available. Yeah. We were the ones that started this, and we had to outreach. And I got to tell you, Scott, it works for everybody that uses these tools, and they all report the same thing. My life's never been better. I've never been happier. I feel like I'm giving back more than I've ever given and care about people more. I'm kinder, I'm gentler. And if we all live this way, which is my personal belief, I believe God gave us this to save us from ourselves. I really don't see anything else on the horizon that's going to save us at this point with the advent of AI and all the changes that are about to happen to humanity. If we lose our soul, it's over for us. But this program is about the soul because you're going deep within to find that original self, as I call it, which is your values, all the things that we got distracted by life that took us on these other tracks. I'm going to be in the military. I'm going to be in the businessman. I'm going to be all these things. Yeah. That's not you. No. That is not you. And this program tears away all those layers so that you can be your authentic, real self. And man, what a world would we have if everybody had these tools. And we always say that at meetings, but I don't see anybody else thinking. In fact, we got accused of being heretics in some way because we're just trying to carry the message to everybody. Isn't that crazy?
Okay, if there isn't somebody shooting at you,
well, that's what Burns told me.
Delete my number from your phone because I don't want to talk to you. Because
Burns
it means you're not on the firing line. It's the guys on the firing line that are taking the hits. So I don't care about that at all.
God bless you for saying that. You're right.
I have a story. I had about 10 years, and a business associate of mine, who I'd known him in business off and on for quite a while, said to me one day, I have watched what those 12 steps have done to your life. can I take them? I'm not an alcoholic. I said, now I've been watching you for a long time. I don't think you have the gift. You really don't. But yeah, having me for a close friend qualifies you for Al-Anon. If you go to 2 Al-Anon meetings a week and don't drink any alcohol at all, not a beer watching the ball game, not a glass of wine with your steak, and not a joint with your girlfriend in the evening, because I want you completely present. If you'll do that, he said, oh yeah, no problem. I thought, I'll take you through the steps. At step 9, he goes to make amends to a lady whose charms he's availed himself of lightly once, and discovers a daughter and 2 grandchildren he did not know existed. Today they're a family. That's what I think about what you're doing.
And to me, that's changing the world, because you're changing that little
Literally.
girl's life
Literally.
to get her father back.
Literally.
Absolutely.
Literally.
It's the most greatest work
And
you can do.
This thing we do is about helping a guy like me evolve into who I've always really been. Not the mask. It's literally evolving into the real me, the one I was put here to be. And I think I had to have all that other stuff to realize it didn't work.
Every human being seems to have that dark night of the soul before they're ready to learn something new.
Yeah, well, dark decades. Yeah.
So again, please check out Scott's books on Amazon, Scott J. Lee on Amazon, and buy, because they're all great. And tonight you're going to come to our meeting and give a great lead, and this is just a joy and a gift, and I just can't thank you enough for being on our podcast, Scott.
Well, it's a privilege. I've enjoyed it very, very much. Very much. Thank you again, Dan. This is not the first time, and big deal for a guy like me to be invited back anywhere. So I appreciate it.
I do want to let Dan get in here, because Dan loves the hell out of you too. Dan, any last words you want to say? Just praise our good friend Scott here. Or?
Well, I think maybe some of that's where I got this, because I can talk almost as much as Scott can.
Wow.
Almost. Yeah, I would have to. It's just like a pinch me, I'm dreaming kind of thing to some extent. The whole thing, because similar to what Christopher's story was, in sometime around 2014, where I'm going and visiting this judge who's telling me I'm going to go to prison for 6 to 20 years in Indiana Department of Corrections. Well, I go visit him. I'm trying to figure out what to do. Now, my first AA meeting was 3 years prior to that. But for how hard it is to come back, right? And to even though I knew in my soul that's where my answer was, and to be honest, that was the only people offering me anything either. There was nobody else saying, "Hey, Dan, we can help you." It was just AA that's saying that they could help me, that there's a possibility that if you would come in here and do this stuff, and actually they were saying it more than that. They were like telling me, I remember one guy said, I've never seen somebody come in here and pour themselves into this program and go to prison. Now, I know that does happen, but that guy told me that, and I was, so I got this friend at work, and him and I are both in trouble. He was on the way to Thailand to go for a business trip. We worked together, and he wrecked into the Cincinnati airport because, it would have been a good idea to get really loaded before you had to make that 30-hour plane ride to Thailand. And so he's in trouble, and I'm in trouble, and we're not telling anybody, but we know each other's in trouble, and we're talking to each other, and he's inviting me to do things, and he says, "Have you ever heard of Scott L.?" And I had actually had my very first sponsor back in 2011 and turned me on to speaker tape, so it was something that I was used to, I was open to. But he had sent me, and he goes, "Here, I'll send you a link." And he sends me this link, and I open it up, and it's 5 hours long, And do you understand how busy I am? I took 5 hours. Well, I plugged that in, man, and I sit down at my desk, and I started listening to that, man, and I heard a man speaking on a frequency that I could hear. And it was instant. Tears me up to think about it, the impact it had on me, to listen to it. And it made the stuff, and it was a condensed 12-step workshop, but it was pretty condensed in 5 hours. I mean, this is deep. If 5 hours, I've heard like you and Bob Darrell do ones that are, I don't know how many hours long.
11.
Yeah. And I've listened to those too. You said there's been 500 recordings. I bet I've listened to 499 of them. the stuff made sense to me, and I listened to it. And then when that that dreaded 5-hour long tape was over with, man, I sent it back to the beginning and hit play again. And I would listen to it when I laid in bed at night, and would listen to that, and it was soaking into me, man. And it, I've had this wonderful journey since that point in time, and I didn't go to prison, and I met Christopher. Shortly thereafter that, I'd heard of it, and I was telling him, you ought to hear this dude name. And he goes, yeah, that's a great speaker to listen to, and we jived on that. And I tell people, my sponsoring is, I'll say that like I'm 50% Christopher and 50% Scott Lee, and I don't allow my guys to listen to you on the tapes until we're done with the work. Because you're forbidden from listening to Scott Lee until we're done here, and then they later on they'll see why. But the blessings, like you said, I don't understand it. I don't worry about trying to understand it. But I got 2 men sitting across the table from me. We both got sober in 1984. 41 years, and to that one night, one of my sponsees, one of my favorite ones, one of my friends, Toby, he'll like me saying Toby, he said, hey man, I'm on a Zoom meeting right now. He's texting me. I'm on a Zoom meeting and Scott's talking. And I'm in our home group, so I'm torn. I could walk out my home. I wanted to, but I didn't. But I knew the man who your speaker tape, who you were talking with. It was a guy from the Daily Ponderables. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I knew him a little bit. And so I contacted him and got your number, and it took me days or weeks or I don't know how long to go, hey, Scott, would you want to be on my podcast? And man, and he just like, this is something else that I see, and you model these things. You're just this thing where like you're excited about the next thing.
Yeah.
And
I'm about to publish another book. Postcards from God should be out by the 1st of November.
That's in just a minute.
Yeah, very shortly, and it's a bunch of short things. Heidi from Pennsylvania, and I use an Oxford group meditation technique, and I've heard people call it two-way prayer.
I've been looking at that too.
And we've got hundreds of these things, and we put together 366 of them. We didn't want to leave out February 29th, and publishing it as a daily reading book. And I've actually got the rough draft with me. I'm through January in the edit.
Nice.
We're that close to publishing it.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
So made contact with him, and then the next thing you know, and we did some more, and he had some books, and we got to where we was building a relationship, man. And I just giggle that when I look down at my telephone and I use your little kid picture. Is the avatar. When I look down and see that phone number is on my phone, man, it gives me chills every time. And now we get, we have had this thing. You've invited me down and did that wonderful workshop with you down at your house. Unbelievably moving.
You guys have been too kind, and I appreciate it.
But I mean, golly, Scott, you've been doing the deal for real, and it shows. And it's like as bright as the sun. And you had an impact on me, and now we get to go fishing tomorrow.
Yeah.
And
But I tell people, if you don't think God's got a sense of humor, look at who He's got trying to carry His message. What would it take to convince you?
Well, it didn't look good at the beginning, but you did a damn good job, sir.
But I'm just tickled pink that we've made contact, and I get to say I know you now, and continue to learn from you, because I sit here today for almost 2 hours, man, and just am soaking it up like a sponge.
My great privilege.
And it's not us being kind, sir. You've put in the work.
It's real.
You can now get to reap the rewards of your work, and I think I maybe learned it from you. Accept a compliment as God slapping you on the ass saying, attaboy, good job.
Yeah, the correct response is you're welcome.
Yeah.
Or thank you.
Yeah. That's
one
one of the first things I learned.
You've done a lot of good work for a lot of people.
That wasn't the plan.
That was a hard lesson to learn in recovery for me. You're welcome.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's a tough one for a lot of us. It's that old ego thing. That's all that is.
Yep.
This old ego.
So cool, so cool.
All right. So, any last words for maybe anybody that's new out there and thinking about taking this trip we've been talking about? Because that's why we do this podcast. It's an outreach to try and reach as many people that need help and they're afraid to go to their first meeting or whatever.
I'm reminded of my friend Tammy from Montgomery, Alabama, who used to take meetings into a prison where she was once an inmate. She said she always dressed like she was going to the prom. And she opened by saying, now, ladies, I know you've been getting shot at and stabbed and sleeping under the pool table and waking up with strangers and getting in fist fights and wrecking your car and going to jail and making your mama cry. But I'm here to tell you there are other ways to have fun. And so what I would say is that this thing is about have fun. I was afraid when I was new that there would be no fun.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is I hadn't had fun yet and I didn't know it. It's a different fun, but it is so much better. And at the end of the fun, nobody's mad. It's really, really a fun way to live. I'm carrying probably around $400 cash. I grew up poor. I've got money on me all the time. I will not be stopping at the dope man's house, the bar, or the liquor store tonight. Why? One reason. The new answer is so much better than the old answer that the old answer no longer calls my name. Happy, joyous, and free. I don't want to trade that in. And if you're new, I love you more than I can tell you. And I heard people say, we'll love you till you can learn to love yourself. We'll love you till you can learn to love everyone else. It's an astonishing experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would not be sober if the fun quality was not exponentially better.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I was missing out on so much fun.
Yeah.
So we like to wrap up our podcast with the Serenity Prayer, just to put a little bow on it. So Scott, if you'd like to join us.
Well, I was in one of the gated communities, that's a jail, a number of years ago. And we always opened with the Serenity Prayer and close with the Lord's Prayer. And the Serenity Prayer sounded like an invitation to a fight. God grant me, they're all suffering from testosterone poisoning. And I thought at the end, I can't listen and do that to the Lord's Prayer, so I asked him to whisper it slowly. We're not praying the prayers, we're reciting them. But if we slow down and whisper them, it changes them back into a prayer. So I'd like to take a moment and suggest everyone, if you borrowed my God and you got touched here, you might want to do that again. If you invited God as you understand him, you might do that at those quiet times. Let's take a moment each in our own way, thank him. And then we will slowly, I say again slowly, whisper the Serenity Prayer. Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Feel the difference?
I do.
I've borrowed that from you too. I like to do that.
Yeah.
God
It's
bless
so
you,
cool.
Scott. Thank you for everything.
Thank you guys so much, Christopher. Thank you. Dan. what a
Thank
joy.
you. Yeah,
What a
very
joy.
cool.
Thank you.
All right, so everybody, please stay tuned. Keep us on your subscribe button, because even though Dan and I are taking a bit of a break, we do hope to be back to introduce the book in January. So stay tuned, and please pass this on to a friend. Anybody you think might be suffering or alone, needs a little bit of hope. This is a terrific resource, and I wish I had had it when I was first getting sober. So God bless you all. Thanks for joining us, and keep coming back. Peace out.